Do you want to bring realistic sounds to your model railway? Well, look no further. In this video, we'll walk you through the process of adding a DCC-like sound decoder to your Arduino chip using a very cost-effective little MP3 amplifier board. So we at Model Railway Techniques love exploring creative ways to enhance our model railway on a budget. This incredible little device allows you to load a wide range of sound files, from engine noises to very sound-specific sounds for any ship or boat. By utilising this budget-friendly method, you'll be able to create an immersive auditory experience to your model railway harbour. Don't worry if you're not an expert in electronics, we'll guide you through step by step through the installation process, from connecting the MP3 decoder amplifier board to your Arduino chip, wiring the speaker and configuring the sound files on the ST mini card. Enough of the waffle, let's get started. So the first thing we look at is the power supply. So that's a wall wart, I should say, with the Australian plug. So the next one is some sort of speaker. So the one showing there, that's an iPhone 4, and I'm very, very happy with that regarding its fidelity. They are really a nice little speaker. So if you've got any old iPhones lying around, there's plenty of videos out there how to take them to pieces and get the speaker out. So the other little guy there, that is a half a watt 80 ohm speaker. Very, very cheap on Alibaba. So the star of the show here is this little guy. So this is the MP3 format, TF card, U disc decoder and amplifier board module. That is a little bit of a tongue tie. So some features of this little fella. So we can go up to, basically the amplifier is an onboard 2-watt mono amplifier. So you can power 5 volts. I wasn't sure before, so it's only up to 5.5 volts and up to 3 watts of speaker. So the ones we're looking at here is doing no issues at all. So they're recommending a 4 ohm 3 watt speaker. A headphone jack as well, and I'll explain how you might be able to use that very, very shortly. So the headphone jack there, speaker, got the micro USB to power it if that's what you want to do. You got some control switches up the top here. This is where the SD mini card will go, and also obviously they're a little bit more expensive, but if you've got some cheap USB, you can actually use a USB and plug that in there with your sound file also. So to give you some sort of idea, the capacity of this little guy, we can use up to 32 gigs for either USB or the... So we've got the buttons on the top. We've got the long press here, these two left-hand ones for the volume, so you can actually play for the volume. We've got a mode button which actually goes between play and pause. So with this little guy, this TF player, what you can actually do, there's a 3.5mm audio output. Now what that allows you to do is to plug in an external speaker. So currently on screen there is a very old Sony Bluetooth speaker that we go traveling with. So depending on the type of sound that you're after, if you're going to use it for more of a ambient background noise and you want to have some sort of fidelity to it, there's no reason why you can't pump this audio into another speaker as such. So this little guy has the audio input facility as well. So if, obviously this doesn't have a Bluetooth module, but if interesting anyone out there has actually used this TF player, whether you could actually add Bluetooth to it, but that's maybe for another day. So it's just a matter of, from this point of view, grabbing it and then you're just plugging it into the side there, and instead of outputting to the speaker jack here, you're going to output into this speaker, and I'll try to give you some sort of comparison as best I can with sound quality. It's quite remarkable, obviously. So just quickly on this module, very, very cheap. So I got one module through eBay. So if you're willing to go probably to Alibaba or some of those other big electronics stores straight out of China, you probably get them a lot cheaper than this. However, that's $1.55 American and a few bucks to get it shipped here. And further to that, if you're to buy, same sort of thing, if you're to buy these speakers like that, they are probably a very similar price. Probably the most expensive piece of hardware in this build is probably the SD mini card. If you're not familiar what a SD card looks like, this is a SanDisk one Ultra, so it's a little bit better quality one. I wouldn't suggest you need to go to this extreme. So this is a micro SD converter. So USB this end, just a standard USB, and then the little card slots into the end there. What we've got here, we've got the TF player hooked up to that speaker that I spoke of before. I'll try to give you the difference in the audio. I'll just put the lavalier microphone up to the speaker, and then I'll connect in this little guy, and then we'll go from there just to give you a comparison. So the first thing you would notice is obviously the actual fidelity of the sound. As you'll expect, the speaker here is not an expensive speaker by any stretch of the imagination, but obviously the size of it is always going to give you more sound and a better sound. However, I would use these modules if I'm going to do like a soundscape for the whole layout. So I'm thinking of doing like a lightning and rain and thunder type scene with some strobe lights. That's whether you might use this type of speaker or something even bigger. And these little guys obviously perfect for, as I'll show you, fitting into the actual ship to mount it like a DCC sound decoder speaker. The sound I'm trying to go for there is it's more of a distant horn, so that's not the horn of the actual ship, but I'm just trying to get a working harbour sort of scene going, but more centered around what that boat's doing, so you can hear those voices coming through quite prominently, and also the chugging of the motor as it's just idling, sitting in port. Give me your thoughts if there's any other sounds that you might like me to look at putting on there. Having a bit like a DCC decoder, but for a locomotive, but obviously for this ship. So the sounds of a sound decoder like a lock sound or soundtracks or similar is inherent to obviously that locomotive. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to narrow it right down to having the sounds of what is happening with that boat. The only one that sort of maybe skips outside of that, just more for presentation more than anything, is the ship's horn that sort of goes off in the background a little bit. Before we go and have a look at how I install this into the ship, let's have a quick word from my sponsor, PCBWay.com. Over to you guys and girls.
This video is proudly sponsored by PCBWay.com. If you're a tinkerer, inventor, or advanced electrical engineer, you need to check out PCBWay, or you are seriously missing out. They are passionate about PCBs ranging from standard to advanced PCBs with 1 to 30 layers with full-featured printed circuit boards. PCBWay don't stop there. They offer basically everything you need to make your ideas a reality. Whether you need 3D prints, injection molding, or CNC machining, assembly, or basic PCB manufacturing, they can do it all for highly competitive prices. Check out their awesome services in the link below and their offer to my viewers who support this channel. Watch out for my upcoming videos where I'll be using some of their products.
This is the Artec Clipper ship that we're going to use. I've actually had to dismantle some of the rigging, so if you're going to do a project like this, afterthought, you might want to not do the rigging because it's a pain in the bum to get around it. I will link to some videos in the description below of me weathering this boat, putting it together. It was actually a really fun build. So in the base of the hull there, you can see right there is a small hole. So that's about 5mm. But I suggest, because these are a resin boat, don't just drill in with a drill bit that size. Obviously drill your pilot hole, because the last thing you want to do is shatter the actual hull, because they are quite fragile when it comes to that side of things. So there's two ways you can probably do this. So you can either have everything, all the circuitry sitting in that hull, but if that's not a viable option, you can probably just have the speaker sitting up in the hull, and then you can have the TF module sitting in under the layout. So I'm probably going to opt for the former and regarding having all the circuitry sitting in here, so it's all localized, and then it's just a matter of me putting the hatch back on top, and then obviously that will muffle the sound a little bit, so we'll have to sort of work out whether that's the best place to put the speaker. But that's for this project, that's what I'm going to look at doing. So that's the module and the speaker installed actually in situ in the boat. So just please be very, very mindful when you're putting the 5-volt power leads in. Make sure you get the polarity right. Unlike I did, they're very susceptible. They will just literally go up in smoke like my first one did. Just as well, they're not all that expensive. So please be very careful how you're powering these little guys up. We now got the cover back on the clipper. All the hardware is within the little hold there. I was a little bit concerned initially that the sound probably was not going to be loud enough to be muffled by putting the cover back on, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. So I'll just turn the sound on. I've got that on full volume. It might need to go down a little bit. Bit of a sound of what it sounds like. On a whole, I'm reasonably happy with the way that's coming up. It's probably just a little bit loud. I might end up taking the horn out. I think it's just a little bit unrealistic because the horn probably wouldn't be sounding if the boat's loading like that. If there's any mariners out there that tell me otherwise, please put in the comments below, it'd be great. So quick, easy little build. Going to go out on my harbour scene. I've done the track work for the harbour, but I've yet to actually cut the harbour in, so to speak, to actually build the sea level, so to speak. Make this sound decoder as realistically as possible. We need to be able to manipulate some sounds and bring them all together, change their volumes, change their lengths in some occasions. And I do this in Adobe Audition. So I've been promising this for a little bit. This is a very, very short tutorial on Adobe Audition. Up on screen you can see here is the audio interface. I must point out this is obviously a paid version, so you can use another program called Audacity, which is very similar, but it doesn't have some of the advanced features that we will touch on here very briefly. So hopefully, whether you're a beginner, sort of like me, I've used this quite a little bit over the years. However, I'm still learning it's the power of this program, so bear with me. So the first thing we need to do is start by setting up the editing screen. So what we got here is when you open up Audition, we'll go new. So what we got, this is a multi-track. So all that does, what I mean by multi-track is we got numerous tracks. So currently we've got 6, and you can just keep adding more tracks and more sounds if that's what you want to do. However, you do need to be a little bit careful. It will start getting a little bit muffly with some of the speakers we're going to be using. So if you want to add another track, you can either just go up to clip, track, and then just add, and it'll add one below the one you've got highlighted. So you can sort of see, if you click on them here with the left mouse button click for Windows users, it highlights them. So the next portion of this is you need to find the sounds that you want to use. So I, in previous video, have sort of showed either Pixabay or another one that I've found is called Free Sound. Both of them are free for non-commercial, so for this type of thing it's more than good. It's just a matter of typing in the search engine what you want to hear and going from there. So to give you some sort of idea, I will insert the boat horn right now. So just off screen here, I've got a Windows Explorer open, so I've just run out of space on the screen. So it literally is just easy as you just grab your file that you've downloaded off wherever you've picked it up for on the net, and then hold the left mouse button, and then you just drag it in. So what we'll do to go to now is we'll go to the actual project that I'm working on, and I'll show you what some of the features of Adobe Audition have to offer for us. So this is the workspace for this particular project that I'm working on now. It might look a little bit overwhelming to some, but it isn't all that bad. So I showed you how to bring in one track. This has just got 7 tracks. So from there, what we can do, we can play with the tracks individually. So you'll see all these buttons here. We can mute tracks out. We can also solo a track. So what soloing a track is just so if you start playing the track or start playing the project, it's going to play all the tracks as they're all stacked together as you see it. But soloing, we can actually just select one track and play it from there. So number 2, we're going to just briefly look at the workspace. So Adobe Audition has a reasonably user-friendly, this is my opinion, workspace. The main workspace consists of the waveform, as you can see here on this track number 3 is probably the most notable, which shows the audio file very, very visually. So at this point you can actually zoom in and out of the particular waveforms, and this is where you start looking at editing. So if you want to cut little bits in and out, you can do that from this screen as well. So if we're to look at, let's just blow up this, so to speak. We'll zoom in a little bit on this track number 1, and I'll show you what I mean by that very quickly. So as you can see, I'm just pushing the plus key there on the keyboard. This is for a Windows machine, and you can actually see how you can zoom right in there, and you can actually cut that out. Control K, which I don't know why I use Control K, but anyway, you can actually map your shortcut keys as well if you wanted to use a C. So at that point, I can take that clip totally away. Obviously, I won't do that. I'll just go Control Z just to bring it back. And if you want to come out of the zoom, it's just a matter of you use the negative sign on the keyboard. So from here also we can add a myriad of effects. So not going to get into effects side of things because that can get you could make a year's worth of content just on what effects. So we can have a look at the effects rack here over the right hand side. So some of the effects that we can look at are, as you can see, there's a myriad of them. We can go for things that make it give all sorts of reverb or echo right the way through to compressions and all that. As I said, a little bit beyond probably what the scope of this video, but it's a very, very powerful program. So the other powerful aspect to this, and this is probably mainly what we're going to use this program for. So unless you've got Adobe Audition, I probably wouldn't go and pony up the money because it is quite expensive, but it's a part of my Adobe pack to put all my videos together, so that's what I use. That's why more than likely you'll get away with a free version of Audacity. So what we're going to do here, you can see down here, I've just had to start to play with just on each individual track here. You've got this little marker here. So that's actually playing with the decibel levels. And that's a matter of you can just go through, you scrub through, actually listen track by track. This is where it's actually quite important, quite handy where you can actually solo tracks. So I'll just do a very crude way of doing this. I'll just turn the microphone around so you can actually have a listen to the solo tracks as I'm sort of scrubbing through. So the sounds that I've gone for here on the different tracks. So I've got a boat horn, and I'll show you the boat that it's going in, or the ship that's going in shortly. It's got a marine crane activating. It's got some ambient sort of background noises from some harbour type workers. What else we got here? We've got a boat that's got a stationary engine and it's just sort of just chugging away. I've also got the interior boat engine, and I've got a water gurgling or water lapping up against the side of the hull, and also another ship's engine. So basically what we're trying to do here, I'm not sure whether I'm going to use all 7 tracks. I'm still manipulating the file a little bit here before I do the final mix down, so to speak. Now, it's just a matter of by ear, and you might have to come in and out depending on what speaker you're using as well, because you don't want to clip out your speaker. So clipping is distorting the speaker because it's either too loud or the frequency range is too broad, too much bass, too much high-end shrill type sound waves, that is. So assuming that I was happy, which I'm not at this point in time, I've got a few more tweaks to do. What you now need to do is just quickly go over to the file and you export it. So this is what they call a multi-track mixdown. So this is going to take it from 7 tracks into 1 stereo track. So we can do it in various ways. I'm going to do entire session, and then it's just going to ask you how you want to mix it down and where you want to send it to as a finished file. So it's as easy as that. It's very Windows based and intuitive, if that's what you're into. And also for your Apple users out there, it's exactly the same. It's just a matter of browsing to the folder that you want to store it and just going from there, and it'll mix it down for you. Just one other really cool feature this is not inherent to Audacity, unfortunately, but definitely to Adobe Audition and probably other Apple-based ones out there, like maybe Final Cut Pro, their audio version of it. So if I wanted to, let's look at this track number 5 here quickly. So currently this track is, give or take, 1:40. So if I want to make this track longer, what this actually does, it'll analyze it and it'll cut it up perfectly and add all the cuts in a relevant spot, so it just seamlessly plays, and you wouldn't actually pick it to the ear that it's actually been remastered, so to speak. So you're not stretching the clip, so to speak, because that'll add all sorts of weird artifacts, and you'll sound like a chipmunk. So I'll just quickly show you what that's all about. So we can just right click on and it's called a remix. So we want to enable the remix, and then it's just a matter of coming over here and it's analyzing. So from there I can, let's just make this very, very simple. I will go out to 2:40, so it's going to add another minute. It'll do the remix, and you can see all along the waveform here. So the squiggly line there is where it's actually cut it and joined it together, and it's actually a really cool little feature. So what do you do with the file after that? So very, very briefly, this is obviously on a Windows machine, so I've got 2 separate what we call file explorers up. So the one on the right hand side, you can see this is where we've saved. That's on the main hard drive. And this one on the left here is the micro SD card. So it is literally as easy as either copy and pasting or dragging and dropping across. And that will go onto that little micro SD card for inserting into the media player. So this is the end of the video. So it was quite a fun project to put together, and relatively easily. Once you sort of broke down the different components and how they're connected, it was a reasonably quick build to put together. So as always, I have 3 questions I like to pose to everyone, so please make sure you put them in the comments below. So question number 1, would this be the sort of system you might use on your model railway? Number 2, if so, what sort of tweaks might you use to make this project a lot better to suit your needs? And number 3, like always, how could I have done this better, or the design I've done, or maybe even simplify it even further? That'd be great to hear from you. If you like this video, we'd be super grateful if you give it a big thumbs up. The YouTube algorithm loves the engagement, so let's give it a little bit of love. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit that little bell icon to be notified of upcoming content. Thanks a bunch for watching. See you in the next video. Blessings to you all, and peace out.